can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders like the founders of P90X, Atari, many more, and how they overcome big challenges in life and business. This is part of the Prosper Show e-commerce mastery series, where top sellers and experts teach you what really works to boost your e-commerce business. They have an amazing conference with some of the top Amazon sellers and industry leaders like we have today, Devin. Our sponsor today is rise25.com, which helps service-based professionals, doctors, lawyers, accountants, coaches create additional revenue streams and stop just trading time for dollars. They hold you accountable to achieve your biggest goals with a step-by-step roadmap. Check out rise25.com, run by myself and co-founder John Corcoran. It's application only. Today, I'm excited. We are talking to Devin Johnson. He's founder of First Mile. They pick up hundreds of thousands of parcels all across the U.S. and internationally. Since they deliver direct to major shipping networks like UPS, FedEx, they can provide significant discounts. They've been named the fastest growing company in Utah, and within the first 12 months of business, they grew to a multi-million-dollar company without investment or debt, and they have operations all over the U.S., United Kingdom, Italy, Hong Kong, many more. They use a proprietary technology to help businesses connect manufacturing, warehousing, fulfillment, and shipping. Devin, hopefully I got that right. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You know, shipping is a very small margin business. Most of the logistics sector is. So when you're trying to feed a family off of, 3 cents a package, it takes thousands just to, get a kid's meal at McDonald's, So,
Yeah.
So having had experience in kind of the door-to-door world and business, I sold door-to-door all over the country. I had a little wireless company that I would run it during the at nights. So during the daytime, when people were at their office, I would knock doors in warehouse complexes and other business units. And then about 5 o'clock at night, as people were going home, I'd go to the gas station, get a Monster Energy drink, and change my shirt. And then I'd go knock doors selling Dish Network and internet services door to door, so I could feed the family, off of the money I made at nights. And then during the day, I worked on my shipping business. And so, it's kind of funny because even then, that was like 8 or 9 years ago, but even today, there's kind of some stuff that's come out of that, namely that my full name is Devin Clyde Johnson. And in the early days, I had to kind of like separate my worlds. So during the daytime, I would go by Clyde in the shipping. Yeah. And at nights I was Devin. So because what was happening is I would be in someone's warehouse trying to set up their software, and I'd get a phone call and someone would say, "Hey, my internet's running slow." And that was a lower priority. So if I answered the phone and they said, "Is Devin there?" I would take a message and call them later. Likewise, if it was, 10 o'clock at night and I was working on someone's internet speed and someone said, "Is Clyde there?" I knew that something was going on and I needed to take the call.
That's more pressing.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because even today I'll be on a conference call, from someone who was
the early
involved.
Customer. Yeah,
and how you call and you say, "Hey, Devin's here," I'll check in, and then and someone inevitably will say, "Well, is Clyde getting on the call?" So it's kind of an inside joke for people that know us,
That goes back 9 years. So you started the company 9 years ago.
Well, I got into this industry about 9 years ago. This company, First Mile, started in the spring, April 2012.
Okay.
So it's a totally new business, but I started selling shipping products door to door about 9 years ago. Yeah.
So what were the shipping products? 9 years ago. Yeah.
It was a very, very niche USPS product that was kind of, there's kind of a frenzy over like these NSAs that are just pretty much a commodity now. But back then it was kind of this new thing. And so my whole life was just understanding technology and figuring out why all these people had a shipping software called Dazzle. It took me a while to figure out if it was Bedazzled or Dazzle or what it was. But anyways, I definitely earned my stripes back then.
I want to go back, to your mission days at some point, but But what works going door to door? Obviously, you are a seasoned, toughened, hardened door to door person because you've been doing it for years. What do you find? What tactics and things work well when you're actually approaching that?
You know what? What it really comes down to is being a workhorse, not a show horse. I mean, you can spend a lot of time reading, we read a lot of sales books, and there's definitely some sales tactics that work and, things like that. But by far, more than anything, being a show horse is not as important as being a workhorse. Because, when you learn the jargon and you learn who to talk to and how to talk to them, you learn that stuff over time. So just literally just knowing how to roll up your sleeves and just be consistently, hunting. That's what it takes, really, to be honest.
I mean, when you approach a door, someone's immediate reaction is to not want to open the door for a solicitor or someone. So do you have like a greeting that you find people open up to, or like what would you say to people when you were 9 years ago when you're going up to their door?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, absolutely. There's definitely some tactics in doing that, but to be honest, it's just total transparency and a smile, and there's definitely a vibe that people carry when they're kind of going door to door. And that, I think that kind of can put people in a defensive posture. So figuring out how to just step in the door in a way that doesn't put something in a defensive posture, right? So that could totally vary based on the industry that you're in.
Yeah.
For me, probably one of the best things was, I'm a shipping guy, right? So I didn't want to talk to your accountant. I didn't need to talk to your HR person. I didn't necessarily need to talk to your CEO. So if I knew I was going to be in an area where there was maybe a customer that I really had my eye on, or that I knew I was going to be approaching, or if I knew an area I was going that day, I could look at the companies I was going to. I would get on LinkedIn or Facebook, or I'd just Google your website and I'd see if I could just find the name of a guy in shipping, right? So when I walk in, I had a friendly face and I asked for someone by name, so that it didn't feel like I was in there just like looking for somebody to listen to me. I came with the purpose of someone to talk to, and so
that's
that
smart. Doing some research ahead of time instead of like, hey, can I talk to your shipping manager? Is a lot less personal. Like, hey, like, is Tom here from shipping?
Exactly.
Yes.
Because if I say, hey, is someone here from shipping? The first thing they ask is, do you have an appointment?
Who
right?
are you? Yeah, get out.
Here, it's like, are you a buddy of his? Yeah, sure. Let me grab him.
I will be after 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so there's all sorts of little quirky things that I learned, because I did door to door. If you add my mission days to traditional door to door, I did it for almost 10 years. So, I've knocked hundreds of thousands of doors probably all throughout America. So, if you want to get yourself into some interesting situations, you just stop into a random neighborhood, some random city, and you just start knocking on doors, and you'll get some pretty fun experiences.
So, Devin, what's your craziest door-to-door story, even if it's part of your mission days?
Oh, my gosh. I don't even know if I can talk about it. You might have to censor this. But, I was chased off of a door one time with a guy who is, I guess I'll say, large in stature. He was very healthy, big guy. And he chased me off the door with the shotgun one time.
Really? Why? Just
he didn't want someone on his door, and he was just having a bad day, I guess. I spent a lot of people answer their. You'd be shocked how many people answer their door nude.
Really? They just pull up, open the door.
Don't care. Yeah, just any inhibitions they have been lost on them years ago. But yeah, lots of crazy stuff like that happens.
So Devin, how do you get over the mental block or mentally if you maybe you go a stretch of 50 doors and they're just kind of slamming in your face over and over? What do you do mentally to kind of recoup?
Change your paradigm. You got to get to a place where you're comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah. And you've got to really understand, it's very much like in business, it's like a roller coaster. You're going to ride highs and you're going to ride lows, but you have to figure out how to do is to steady your emotions. And it's a very physical, it's very much a decision to not let yourself get too high on the highs or get too low on the lows. You have to make a conscious decision to say, hey, I just had a win, but I know I got to get right back to work because I got to produce for the next one.
Right.
And also when you go for 3 days, not 50 doors, 3 or 4 days and not having your results, hundreds of doors a day for 3 or 4 days at a time with no results can potentially be a little bit demoralizing.
For sure.
You got to get yourself to a place where you can win, and you just got to keep fighting to get that next win. So it's very much less tactic and more conscious decision to not get too high on the wins and not too low on the losses.
Is there something you tell yourself at that point? Like after 3 days, like I know it took me last time 1,026 doors to knock on, or what do you tell yourself mentally? Because that makes perfect sense, but when you're in the moment, it's tough. Like if you're in that low moment, it's tough to think, think non-emotionally about it. I'm wondering if there's any sayings
I honestly don't know any like specific tactic other than making sure you have, an incentive, whether that be money or, for me, it's feeding kids, I mean,
Right.
I especially when I started this business, I was very uncomfortable with what I was doing and the trust that I had and in kind of the situation I was in. And I just knew I needed to, I had quit college, so I couldn't just go put my resume in somewhere. So if I was going to feed my family, I had to do it hunting. So I just had to always be hunting.
Yeah.
And so, I just
it's just do or die.
well, I think it goes back to being more of a workhorse than a show horse. Like there might be some special fancy things you can do to tell yourself or some quotes you can write down. But I think more than anything, just having some grit and bearing down and knowing that if you put in the time, you'll get the wins. When you have the win, you can't get too excited about it because you got to get right back to grinding again. So just really getting to where you're comfortable being uncomfortable. Now all of a sudden, no's are normal, wins are good, but you don't really experience these downtimes per se.
Yeah. But I feel like in your head, it was in your head like, okay, either I do this or, I feed my kids. And that was in your head, probably the whole time is you had that something, it's like a pain motivator. Like if I don't do this, the kids aren't eating type of thing.
It's very much a stick and a carrot, right? I mean, you've got I knew that especially once we started building First Mile, I knew that what we were doing was not intuitive to the industry, meaning there was a lot of pushback in the way we wanted to build our model. It was really thought down upon, I guess you would say, being an asset-based provider. Everyone was about being a brokerage or being a non-asset-based provider. Mm-hmm. So what we were doing was, I think, kind of counterintuitive to what I guess the industry would have otherwise told us. So it was fairly risky, but I knew that we could do something special if we executed. So that was kind of the carrot for me. But then the stick was, you have to produce or you literally can't pay your rent next month. So,
So at what point did you hire your first kind of developer person for the technology side? Because, in the beginning, it was you selling, delivering, everything. And obviously you weren't coding from like 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. and then not sleeping.
Not at all. But one of the first things we saw was this huge need for development. And this calls, I don't want to bore you with the details of why, but suffice it to say that we needed this piece of technology. And so I found someone that I could never have afforded, like from a salary perspective. So I would hire on contract in tranches, and he worked on contract for us for about 2 years and about a year and a half. And for probably 80% of that time, I was trying to talk him into coming to work with us. But he had a great, daytime job, very secure, big, stable company, and here's this kid in this little office, trying to get him over. And it's just like, no way. He had a new wife. And so we were too risky. So we just kept on contract. And then eventually, we finally talked him into coming over full time. And since then, we've built out that technology. We've also outsourced 2 huge pieces of technology that we own, but we've built through contract labor. So we have a mix of both of
in-house and
contracted code that we've had to develop.
Yeah. And then tell me about the expansion. What did the expansion look like? So obviously it's you, and then you're probably serving the local area because now you're in United Kingdom, Italy, Hong Kong. You're all over the place.
Yeah.
Where did you first expand, and how did it go from there?
So we have different functions in those areas. So the core first mile functions, we ship to, I don't know, 200 something countries. So we also have customers in those countries. We also have physical brick and mortar facilities, like in Italy, for example, and then we have a technology base in Hong Kong. And so we've always just grown to the customer, meaning we've created new products when we felt a pain point or a demand for it, and we've tried to build in a way that we knew could scale and have application for our other customers. Yeah. And so we've just always had to do it in a way that we could pay for it and then hope we could sell it and monetize it, after the fact to our customer base.
So what are some of the products? I know you have an annual sales conference coming up. So what are you going to talk about at the annual sales conference?
Well, lots of things. Everything from SOPs for implementation and setting up customers to, how to, provide the proper tariffs to clients so that, we're not starting off in the hole, running a big 26-foot straight truck to a customer that gives us one bag of, 2-ounce cell phone covers every day. So, understanding how to run those SOPs. But from a product perspective, most of our training will be based around a new product called X-Parcel, which is very, new, I guess I would say, to the industry. And that's the ship method, a first mile ship method. So
X-Parcel.
That tells us, hey, this customer, we have X-Parcel expedited, X-Parcel ground, X-Parcel same day. That basically what that tells us is, hey, this customer wants to ship expedited, or in other words, this customer needs it delivered in 3 to 5 days. X-Parcel is a ship method that runs this logic on the back end that says, hey, here's you're getting it from zip code A to zip code B. Here's 4 or 5 of our partners that can do that. Here's the one that's the least cost option, and sends back the appropriate label, tracking number, cost of the shipment, wraps up that data, sends the manifest off to the appropriate induction point, and then gets it routed onto the truck and into the right induction point and gets the package delivered. And so there's a lot of moving parts there. What faces the customer is hopefully very simple and clean, but what it takes to
a lot of mice running in the background.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there, right? And so training our people on how to appropriately, not only support it but sell it and nurture it and develop it is it's a very sensitive thing. So we'll be doing a lot of training on that. We just rolled out same day delivery. We've been building the technology to do it for about 2 years. We started a beta test about 6 months ago. That's gone really well. We did a beta test with one client, rolled that up to about 4 or 5. Now I think we have a dozen or so out of hundreds. And so we'll slowly start turning those dials on. And we're doing deliveries now in Salt Lake City. We're procuring the vehicles. We have a fleet of Priuses. So we'll be putting a new fleet in Southern California, where actually our largest customer base is. And then we'll be rolling out to Phoenix, Denver. We have a facility where we have trucks running in New York City with a new facility coming in, and also new deliveries coming there probably by the end of this year. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what we'll be doing a lot of training.
Interesting. So Devin, are companies like Amazon and Walmart, would they look at acquiring a company like you because of the capabilities you have of getting things out in a certain radius?
I think that...
Or is that not in their realm of thinking?
I think that very much it potentially can be. We don't really... I guess we don't spend a lot of time looking for that per se, but the functions or the mechanics of what we do have an incredible amount of application for those sorts of companies, just in terms of what our capabilities are. But I don't know. What we know is that there are a lot of needs not being met in the e-commerce logistics space. Right. But it's a huge space, and it changes very fast, and the technology can be overwhelming. So we're consumed with trying to understand what do we need to do well 2 and 3 years from now, because we need to start building now in order to have it perfected 2 years from now.
What do you do? Because, there's day-to-day where you're servicing the customers and the current technology. Do you and your team kind of go away into the foothills of your mountain home every 3 months to write on a whiteboard to figure out where to go in 2 to 3 years? Or how do you plan for that?
I wish it was that organized. a lot of it's guess and check, to be honest. But keeping a pulse on the industry and understanding what's going on, and hopefully our intuition is right. We've made some bad bets, but most of them have been right on. And so, I think that we're on the right track.
What's something like that, Devin, that right now you made a right bet? It wasn't so obvious when you first made it, but it's obvious now that was the right bet.
For us, probably by far the biggest one is building our own technology and running the trucks for pickups, because that, especially 5 years ago,
because other companies outsource that. They'll have the technology, but they'll have other trucks pick it up.
You just look at traditional trucking companies. I mean, you have the actual guys that run the trucks, but maybe as big of an industry are the guys that sell space on those trucks, right? And so, those brokerages can be incredible profit centers, and they're incredible businesses. That's just not what we are. That's just not what I was wanting to become. And so we didn't want to just particularly connect the dots per se. We wanted to actually contribute to the supply chain. I was seeing what companies like Shipworks and Ready Shipper and ShipStation were contributing to the e-commerce environment, but nobody was making a dent of difference in the actual logistics. Like, orders came in from 10 different places into one application. They were going out with 4 or 5 different carriers, but that was the end of the innovation, right? And so I just felt like there was an incredible amount of innovation there, but it required technology and it required trucking assets.
There's a barrier to entry there. I mean,
huge. Yeah, huge, yeah. And so I think owning our own trucks, it would probably still be debated today. In fact, we still have debates about it, but me personally, it's probably one of maybe the riskiest, but
the
best
differentiation
was saying it's incredibly limiting because of the capex and scaling. But we have customers in over 40 states, and so experiencing a relationship with First Mile does not require a truck per se, but it does require us to get your packages picked up every day. So sometimes we still have to contract it and outsource it. But at our core and in our core, territories, you do have a uniformed First Mile driver and a branded First Mile truck show up every day. And in some cases now you have a branded First Mile truck and driver delivering your packages every day also. Yeah,
that's cool. What other software and tools do you see e-commerce companies using? Obviously, there's besides the First Mile suite. What else?
Just e-commerce in general, you mean only pertaining to logistics?
No, in general, that you think is important that you see, because you have your finger on the pulse probably of all the things people are using in their business.
Yeah, I wouldn't say all, but I mean, we definitely see a lot, everything from applications like Channel Advisor or things that compete with Channel Advisor. That's a really big feat to, manage your listings and to get them uploaded and to, keep the same images in this marketplace as in this one and this one and this one and this one, and keeping the pricing, similar and the description similar. That's a full-time job just managing that in one channel, let alone 10. So we see a lot of innovation and a lot of companies leveraging the use of those sorts of technologies. What we deal with the most is on the WMS side of things. Warehouse management, transportation management systems, are big. We work with a lot of those types of companies. So that's what we interact with the most, because we're on the back end of e-commerce versus the front selling side. But
that's like an established player. Any up and coming players that people should look out for in the software e-commerce space?
Yeah. Not off the top of my head that people wouldn't really be aware of. But there are a lot of really good things. I think you just got to keep your eyes open and be willing to try new things, or at least look into new things. You don't want to go and invest, days at a time into 10 different things, and now you've wasted 30, a month of your life.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can be closed off. And to be honest, that's where we've created a lot of opportunity. Is you think man, logistics has been around forever. I mean, it's probably one of the world's oldest industries. How do you make a change in that? But sometimes those create huge opportunities where it's kind of ripe for innovation. And as a company, we've had a huge advantage in that we've been very nimble and we could change and move very quickly. But it's also kind of it's a challenge as we've grown to stay as nimble. And that's probably my biggest fear in terms of our go forward competitiveness, is keeping our sales teams as hungry and as nimble and being able to perform for the customers as quickly as we historically have. And at the same time, build in a way that's organized and that doesn't create chaos for the back end teams who have to manage it all. And so for me, that's a big fear, is making sure we don't get so big that we become as slow as everybody else. And so I hope we're still doing that well, and I hope we will continue to do that well. But I think that applies in these other cases with other companies, in that you've got to stay hungry for innovation. And a part of that is understanding what other options are out there to do things better. Yeah. If you just think that what works today will work forever, you will die. You've got to be able to evolve, or you won't exist for very long.
So, Devin, obviously in the early days, you were hungry because you had to feed your kids, right?
Yes.
So how do you keep your sales team hungry?
Money. They have kids to feed also. That's a little tongue in cheek. Obviously, that's a component to anyone's living. But I think what we're doing is very exciting, and I think that once people understand what we're doing, they appreciate that, man, this could really be something unique and special. So I think having our people invested in and bought in on what we're doing and the uniqueness of it is important. And I think that they're excited to be building something unique and exciting. And I hope that 10 years from now it will be the same way. I mean, if we had done things our second year in business the way we had the first year, we would have died the second year.
Yeah.
And if we had done things the third year the way we did in the second year, we would have died.
Yeah.
So we've had to evolve every year and pivot and change every year. And I would estimate that's gonna be the same every year going forward. And so hopefully what that creates is excitement and change, and keeps people hungry to keep growing and building.
How do you find a good salesperson? Because I'm sure you're always growing, you're always expanding, you're always probably looking for good sales. I feel like everyone I talk to, any company, they're always looking for a good salesperson. So I'm curious of your process.
Sales is that's your engine, right? I mean, not only to grow, but it's also seems to be a cure-all for a lot of problems that plague businesses. And so it's very challenging.
Yeah. I mean, do you get like a headhunter? Do you like search certain I mean, what do you?
A lot of companies have. We haven't. We kind of have a hybrid sales model. We've been fortunate to work with a lot of sales partners in the early days where I couldn't afford payroll for years. I mean, I couldn't, especially good salespeople. So for us, we worked with a lot of like contract salespeople or people that had kind of been in our industry or a similar industry that touched our customer base but maybe didn't offer our products. And so we worked with them on a contract basis for a lot. Once we got a little bit bigger, we started hiring in-house salespeople, and we have some really fantastic in-house salespeople now. And so a lot of it's been luck. We've had some that haven't worked out, and we've had some that have been fantastic. And so and it's interesting. I'm trying to figure out the answer to that question myself, because we've had some people come in, you think you're going to hit a home run, and they just can't seem to.
What is it? Yeah.
And you have guys come in that you just think aren't going to last a month, and they just hit a home run. And so I don't know. But I
what's that magic sauce?
Yeah. I don't know. When you find the answer, let me know.
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
So, Devin, this has been hugely valuable, so I want to thank you so much. And I have one last question. Everyone, first of all, should check out firstmile.com. That's a great domain, by the way.
Thank you.
Did you have to acquire that from someone?
Yes.
Or you did?
Yeah. We had to sit on it for a while because we couldn't afford it, and I couldn't stomach paying for it. And we negotiated on it for a long time, because our company name is International Fulfillment Solutions, and we go by the acronym IFS a lot.
Yeah.
That didn't really, when I was out selling customers, and they were trying to. It's hard enough to understand all this stuff going on, and so I would kind of try and explain. Look, the post office is a last mile delivery partner, and we have partners that can route packages around the country and get it to the last mile. We're the exact opposite of the post office. We're the first mile. And
you just kept saying it.
That's where the name came from.
Yeah. And it stuck.
Yep.
So last question, Devin, because I know you're a busy man. You probably have to. I know you have to get on a flight tomorrow. You probably have to call Hong Kong. I don't know. But last question is, what's been, would you say, the lowest moment, and what would you say has been one of the proudest moments in the business?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Besides being chased off of the porch with a shotgun, that does not count for the lowest.
I would say probably by far the highest point is actually less having to do with, I would say the wins we've had with customers per se, but, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. When we were first growing, I knew every employee, I knew, usually their spouses and their kids and, some unique thing about their situation. And oftentimes now I'll be in the kitchen or the break room or somewhere and someone will walk in wearing a First Mile uniform or, they're sitting in a cubicle and I'm not sure who they are or where they came from. But to be able to realize that there's some family behind that person that's having, they're being able to produce for themselves and have an environment that they are comfortable working in. That's probably the most fulfilling for me.
Providing for the staff and the families of the staff.
Yeah, knowing that we've created something that is self-sustaining in the sense that, people that can come and work hard and do a good job can provide for themselves and their families and have a way to increase in their livelihood and their satisfaction and happiness level. That's very satisfying for me. So I would say that's probably the high is when you have a situation like that. Mm-hmm. The low is, the stress probably on, family, and it's challenging because
you have 3 kids and 1 on the way.
Yeah. And
that's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's just, the business, there's no turn off or it doesn't turn on at 8 and turn off at 6, so it's just kind of constantly there. So that can be wearing on your family when you just, sometimes it's not one of those things where, I see a lot of these like quotes or something, online or LinkedIn, like, oh, you got to put more, you got to spend more time or split your time or, be a little bit more diversified in your things. And it's like, man, that just sounds great. But a lot of times there's just things that you have to do or you die. Like you don't have a choice. Well, your choice is do it or die. And so, that could be wearing.
Maybe that's the quote you put on LinkedIn, do it or die.
Do it or die. Yeah. And so, you don't have the luxury of just like not responding to that thing or dealing with that issue or, addressing that concern. And so,
for sure.
That can be challenging sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Devin, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Everyone should check out firstmile.com, and then you guys will be at the Prosper Show as well, right?
Yeah. Come say hi. I'm sure we'll have great mints like everybody else. Find some unique swag this year. That's one of the biggest challenges is, getting swag that doesn't go in the garbage before it gets on the conference convention floor door. So.
We'll have to brainstorm that.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Devin.
Thanks,
Absolute
Jeremy.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the